Hello, and welcome to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom with your hosts, Heather and Rachel.
Together, we're here to talk about all things self-care, from fitness to mindfulness and everything in between.
Whether it's yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates, or practices like tapping and meditation, we're here to help you discover new ways to care for yourself.
We'll also share tips on positive self-talk, finding time for self-care, and creating routines that stick.
We're here to provide you with plenty of tips, tricks, and unsolicited life advice.
Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Join our community, and together we can explore the path to wellness. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom. We are back from our little hiatus. I think it's been since October that we have gotten together and met and recorded a show. So, a lot has happened. I've got my blurred out background, but I moved. I've got a whole new setup. I've hijacked my husband's office and his very advanced podcast setup. So,
Yay.
yeah.
Yay. And I still have my old stuff. So there we are.
So, yeah, I got a whole new background. I got a new room, and I don't even have to go upstairs to it's just the next door over. So it's
Nice.
pretty cool.
Right on.
So yeah, happy to be back. I've been missing this. And I guess I'm just gonna dive right into it. So today's show, we're discussing Kundalini, and I had questions about this. So I had a bunch of questions for Heather because I know she knows a bit about it from, all the yoga. I don't want to say I was reading because I wasn't really reading. I'm like a huge Audible junkie because I can listen to it in the car and before bed, and I can have other things going on. And I was listening to Becoming Supernatural, and so they wouldn't actually use the word Kundalini. They described the breath of fire,
Right.
I guess, practice to do before meditation to kind of help, I guess, activate the a pineal gland.
Yeah.
And to help deepen the meditation and all of that. And I remember trying it and going, this feels really weird. I don't know if I'm doing this right. Should I have someone with me while I'm doing this? Because I guess, they say it's the same thing when you get that gland activated. It's supposed to be almost like taking ayahuasca or something like that. That's how I've heard it described. So yeah, I know I'm jumping in with the intensity here. So I was like, I don't know if I should be doing this by myself.
Unsupervised.
So I'm like, Heather, how much do you know about this? I have a whole lot of questions. What can you tell me? So she's like, all right, what do you want to know? How do you want to approach this? And she, gave me all these options on how to, I'm like, okay, all right, here's what I'm thinking. And I literally right off the bat, because sometimes I'm not sure what the questions are. Right off the bat, I'm like, I want to know this. I want to know this. I want to know this.
Yeah, well, I send you an email, and I'm just like, we can go here, the history, the blah, 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 blah.
So I'm like, yeah, let's just break this down really simple. And I'm like, all right. So I'm like, yes, that is a lot. Here's what I want to know. So I hope, this is interesting for everyone else, because this was my hey, I want to know this. Here are my questions. What can you tell me? So that's basically that's what today's show is. So I guess before we start, so what's your background with this?
Yeah.
With Kundalini?
So I just want to be super clear and upfront that I am not certified in Kundalini yoga. I do not teach Kundalini. I do not teach any of the lineage of Kundalini. But what I do is teach some of the breath methods that they consider to be Kundalini. So there's several breath work practices in Kundalini, not just the breath of fire. And so there's a lot of things that kind of cross over, right? In different yoga lineages. And when you look at yoga as a whole, you're looking at something that's over 5,000 years old. And so Kundalini is no different, right? It's thousands of years old. When we look at this, when you study yoga, you kind of intertwine into different lineages of yoga,
Hmm.
right? You might specify on one, or one, you might be drawn to one,
Hmm.
but you kind of like dabble in all of them. At least I did, dabble in all of them with the teachings from my teachers and things like that. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that, like, I am not, I am not an expert in this. This is
Right.
not
And this
my
is not like a deep dive into it.
right.
This is like, hey, we're going to answer some basic questions about this in case someone else kind of comes across a practice and they say, hey, like you should breathe like this. And I was like, wow, I don't feel like, I know it's only breathing, but I don't feel qualified.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Um,
I really just a background. And because I think, and then if someone wants to like learn more about it, we can kind
yeah.
of tell them where to go to learn more.
Yeah. And I reference a book in here, in
Yeah,
my
yeah.
notes, that I have read, which is a Kundalini book. And I can put that in our show notes too.
Okay.
So in case people want to dive in that way.
All right. So let's start with the questions then.
Hmm.
All right. So basically, so what is it? Like, what is Kundalini? What is
So
the practice?
at its most basic level, Kundalini refers to potential life force, right? Awareness, vitality, that already exists in the body. The word Kundalini means coil.
Hmm.
And that's important because it describes like energy at rest, right? And when people think of Kundalini, they think of this like awakening, this fire up or whatever. But it really is your energy starting in that coil, that
Hmm.
rest, right? So Kundalini, the word means coil. The reason why coil is important is because people think of the snake
Right.
symbol
Hmm.
when they think of Kundalini. And so it's at the base of the root chakra. You have that nice resting energy. And then as you work through the Kundalini breath and practice, the snake awakens, right?
Hmm.
So in yoga tradition, snake represents potential wisdom and transformation. A snake at rest is coiled, conserving energy. When it's awakened, it moves slowly, right? It moves slowly up those chakra elements. It sheds what it no longer is needed, what no
Right.
longer serves. And then it continues get that energy, that life force energy up to support the body, right? The imagery was meant to describe gradual awakening. So I know that a lot of people I've talked to and a lot of classes I have gone to, there's some confusion of this, how this is supposed to happen,
Right.
right? So this is a process. This isn't like we take one class and then
Right. Of
we're
course.
just these awakened beings and yay,
Right. Well, and again,
like,
too, like
right?
for what I was doing, it was supposed to be, used in conjunction with a meditation to help like bring more to it, right? To like
Yeah.
just get deeper into your meditation. Obviously, I feel like, you're going through all the your energy centers and going, up to from the bottom to the top. And yeah, again, an awakening doesn't usually happen just like that. Or, maybe it does after like all of the years of practice and like
Yeah.
the conditioning or whatever. So where's it come from?
Yeah. So Kundalini concept comes from ancient yoga philosophy, right? It's an ancient yogic tradition, thousands of years old, passed down primarily through teaching, right? Through
Hmm.
voice and teaching. And then, you know, as things go on, and this is going to be controversy, what I'm going to say, I'm so sorry. As things go on and move over to the West,
Hmm.
they become marketable.
Of
And
course,
yeah,
because that's capitalism.
yes.
So
And so they become this marketable thing. And then people kind of change it from what it was to what we know of it today, right? And regular yoga's like that too.
I
Like,
feel like too, aside from marketing, if you want things to like kind of survive and to go on, they have to fit into our lives as we're living them today, right?
Yeah,
So it's, I mean, you could adopt full on like ancient practices, but if it's not practical for people to fit into their lives, then it's not going to survive. So
yeah,
it's like, right? So you kind of like adapt to survive.
yeah. I don't believe that Kundalini was ever meant to be a standalone, right?
Okay.
It lives inside a much larger framework. It's ethical living, it's meditation, it's breath awareness, it's discipline, it's preparation and uh over time, like it's that dedication to the practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when that's what creates the awakening, right? Breath was used carefully and intentionally always in relationship with a person's practice. And so when we look at the breath practice separately, because that's what intrigued you,
Right.
right?
Yes.
That's why
Of
I'm
course.
saying that. When people look at the breath practice separately, to kind of just practice the breath, you're practicing the breath so you can move into a meditation, so you can move
Mm-hmm.
into a mantra, a mudra, whatever you're going to use with that breath, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's good for people to understand that we just don't randomly do these kinds of breath practices without like kind of prepping for them and
Mm-hmm.
grounding and things like that.
Okay.
And so the breath by itself is great because it does help you awaken, be
Mm-hmm.
aware, and things like that. But it is usually lined up with other things.
Okay,
Like
that makes sense.
you want to use it to meditate.
So wait, what you're telling me is if I take a 6 to 8 week yoga class, I'm not like just magically going to be transformed into a more awakened being?
Oh no,
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 that's not how. No,
no, no,
so
no.
it's not a
You'll,
magic.
you know,
There's not a magic snake inside me
I'm
that's
gonna
gonna
I'm
come to
gonna tell
life
you
with
this,
like
and
6 to 8 weeks of yoga.
I'm gonna tell you this, and this is the God's honest truth. Anybody could be love and light on a yoga retreat.
Yeah.
It's applying it into the real world.
Oh, wait. Oh, so I have to carry this over and like use it at, like work and stuff?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
like with other people.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Uh-huh.
damn. Okay.
I know,
Yeah. I see how that could be difficult. Yeah.
I know, I know. We can be really super zen if we don't deal with the outside world.
Yeah.
We can be so zen. But that's not reality. So yeah. Oh, okay, we got that going. We got that out of the way.
All right. So, all right. So what is Kundalini kind of meant to be, right? So where
Yeah.
does it come
So
from? What's it meant to be? And all right. So we
yeah,
kind of touched on that and then our Western version.
yeah.
Right.
So I mean, what it's meant, what it was originated as, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kundalini was meant to be a gradual, stable integration, right?
Okay.
We talk about integrating all the time, but it's supposed to be a way of life. And a good book is Living with Yoga.
Okay.
It's a really good book. It kind of gives you a good picture of it. They talk about like a 2 year process of the dedication to kind of get you into that state, right?
Okay.
And you build, like, it was designed to build the nervous system to be resilient, deepen
Okay.
awareness without bypassing the body, integrating breath, body, and mind, right? Mind, body, spirit,
Yes.
allowing energy to move when the body was ready. Okay. So not before the body was ready, like not,
Not right now.
yeah,
Not not in
not right
six to
now.
eight weeks.
Yeah. but, but it is interesting how, so I'm gonna take us back for a second.
Hmm.
When we look at yoga, right? We look at yoga came from, like, the very first mention of yoga was in the Vedas. And when we look at that, the reason why they moved was to meditate for long times of meditation. Now people, like, we went from this meditation practice into this movement practice, right?
Right.
Now we go from this movement practice into the meditation practice.
Meditation
That's
practice.
how
Right.
we deal, like that's how we deal with yoga. Like that's how we get introduced to yoga. Very few people now, at least in our society,
Right.
right? Very few people work from the philosophies to the movement. They take the movement and sometimes revert back to the philosophies,
Right.
right? And a lot of people look at yoga, the asana of yoga, as or the pranayama, the breath work of yoga, just as a practice, just as an exercise.
Right.
And they never live yoga or do the philosophy of yoga, right?
Hmm.
So, Kundalini was never meant to be overwhelming, to overwhelm the nervous system. It was never meant to exhaust the body, which I have taken Kundalini classes, and
Hmm.
you're taking a class for 60 to 90 minutes. And if you are not versed in Kundalini,
Right.
it can overwhelm the body. It can exhaust the
Right.
body. It can be a lot. So it was never meant to be this extreme practice. It was never meant to work as a shortcut to the
Right.
awakening, right? It was supposed to be a dedication, right?
Which makes
Something that you
sense, of
dedicate.
course.
So preparation matters more than the activation, right? The
Okay.
preparation
Yes,
towards that, the process, and the readiness matters more than the intensity,
of
right?
course.
I think that's important for people to understand.
I think yeah, that refers to like most things in life too. I think
Yeah.
that's just it's not,
And
it's
I
not
think we're
about
always
the
looking like I think we're
it's
always
not
looking
about the
for
prize at the end. It's,
right. But I
getting
think
there.
we're always looking for the shortcut at,
Hmm.
as human beings, unfortunately. But
Well, yeah, and we've talked about this before. Like that's our brains, like, our minds create shortcuts so things like can happen faster. We can get from, point A to point B quicker. Like that's how we're designed. We're built for that. And I think these practices that allow you to kind of slow down and actually be aware
mhm,
of all of the stuff in between is like, right, that's where all the amazement is. Like that's
mhm.
where all the like real living
Yeah.
sort of happens. Like when you stop and pay attention to
Mhm.
what happens in between like
Yeah.
point A and point B and all like in each, subsequent point. Like that's where life is. Like that's where everything is sort of happening. And we keep trying to get to this like imaginary goal and
Mm.
we're missing like all the cool shit that like
Well,
matters.
and the realness of it is the journey, right? The
Yeah.
Once you get to the end, you're now like, okay, I'm here. Now what?
That's the thing. And plus, so
Now
you
what?
go, I'm here now, what? Meanwhile, multiple meaningful things have happened
Mm-hmm.
in the process. And
Yes.
a lot of times we miss them and they're like meant to be noticed, experienced, enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many things that could be fulfilling that happen while all, in the process.
Well, and
And
and if you can be aware while you're going through the journey, you might realize that the end goal needs to be something different or is
well,
something
absolutely.
different.
Or, maybe there's not really even an end goal. Like
Right.
maybe that doesn't really matter quite so much.
Exactly.
It was a
So,
great idea that kind of brought you to where you're going. All right, so, but we're getting off topic. So, all right, Western Kundalini practices often look like,
yeah. So Western culture, Kundalini often looks very different from the original, right? In my opinion.
right.
Uh, I don't want to make it, uh, but it seems to frequently consist of like the breath of fire and a intensely activating your breath seems to be like a almost, I'm trying to, when I took my very first Kundalini class, okay, we did breath of fire in the beginning with no grounding, in my opinion, no
Mm-hmm.
grounding, which made my practice itself, my movement itself labored.
Okay. That makes sense because I mean, I have tried to practice this breath and it is not
Yeah.
the
And,
easiest thing to do.
right. And so um you have to ground before you do these kinds of breath practices. I know from doing Kundalini practice from being a student and
Mm-hmm.
doing Bikram practice from being a student and doing the booty practice from being a student, they all have these rapid breath practices.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them, if you do not come from a grounded place, if you do not come from a um, a mindset of uh, kind of like awakening slowly,
Mm-hmm.
if that's probably the best way to say it. If you don't come from that point, if you're trying to get to that heightened piece in that 60-minute class, you're going to be labored in movement,
Okay.
right? And it doesn't feel good, right?
So yeah,
You
yeah.
you feel sick, you feel like like I know that I felt like my heart was going to pound out of my chest. I was just
Right.
like, I can't breathe. I was anxious. I felt like I was smothering. That was my very first one. And just like everything we talk about, you have to really figure out who's teaching you
Right.
and how the practice is going. So anyway, so as it is in the Western world, I feel like because we're always like, give it to me now. I want it now. I
Yes.
want the magic or whatever now. I feel like things are rushed and we try to cram everything into like this 60-minute class, 90 minutes if we're lucky.
Yeah.
And it's a hard place to be. It winds up being it's you miss out on the lifestyle of it,
Right.
right?
Which I think it really is like it's such a beautiful like concept lifestyle. And I think a lot of like ancient practices and even like ancient religious practices, it came like from the practice of, being present, like being aware. That was more,
Yeah.
what the focus, was on and I feel like should be on as as much as possible, and we tend to lose a lot of that
Yeah.
in Western practices of everything. So
Yeah, because we want it now. We
yes.
want it now. Why can't we have it now? And it's like that you're like you said, you're missing the journey. You're missing
Yeah.
it. And so yeah, so I feel like but I feel like the Western world has taken a lot of Eastern cultures and things and
And we made it into like,
has just done that.
fast food. We
Yeah.
make like our fast food version.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Let's not.
All right. So, yeah, I know. Now a lot of this was like kind of confusing and a little overwhelming. So, let's talk about like what's a good place to start.
Mhm. So
All
a
right.
good place to start is not with the activation, but with the regulation, right? That usually looks like slow and steady breath, shorter duration, seated and supported poses. So you're not, doing your breath with like something like a warrior pose or something like that. You're doing it with a seated pose or something maybe with your back up against a chair or a wall or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Let your body guide your pace, right? Let your body tell you what is going on as you do these breaths so you can navigate that way.
Okay.
If something feels overwhelming, that is not failure. It is something for you to take as information. Your body's trying to tell you something, and you need
Hmm.
to kind of figure that out before you kind of jump to a conclusion of this is what it should be. I'm doing this
Right.
wrong,
But I
and that's
think
hard
too,
to do.
yeah, it is. But I mean, basically, so like, isn't that what you're supposed to be doing
Mhm.
with all yoga practices
Yeah.
is noticing like what is going on in your body, like at that moment,
The
and
word the
each
word
class is,
yoga
yeah, yeah, each
is
class is supposed to be different because it's about
right.
where your body is in that moment.
The word yoga is yoke, which
Hmm.
means to unite.
Yeah.
That is what you are doing. You are learning your body in every moment that your body's in. That's it. Like that's what you're doing. You're making this beautiful kind of integration with your mind, your body, your spirit, and you're learning new things. your best in the morning is different than your best at night. Your best today is different than your best tomorrow, right? And
Exactly.
you're
Yes.
learning that in every moment of your being. And that's what yoga is all about.
Right. So,
All
and yeah,
yogas.
the practice is to notice that, to figure out where you are in that moment and to find kind of like, where
Yeah.
that all merges.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And
So,
honor yourself when you're doing it. Like honor the moment, the good, the bad, the indifferent. Like
wait, so
honor
then
all
I'm
of it.
not supposed to be competing with Karen in the front row who does all the moves perfectly?
No, 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 no. If you
Man.
look like Karen and she's 6 feet tall and you're not, it's weird. Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
It's
I
gross
mean,
and
no,
weird.
yeah, no
Gross.
two bodies are alike, and yeah, no two poses will look the same. I mean, my body probably won't look the same doing the same pose on different days.
No, I tell everybody if you and I look exactly the same, that's odd.
Yeah,
We
no,
have
that's just not.
completely different shapes. We're different heights. We're different, we're different
Yeah, no,
everything.
it's not gonna.
Yeah, we don't look the same.
It don't work like that.
No, no. And I
All
always
right.
tell people, keep your eyes on your mat. Mind your business. Mind your business.
All right. So, here's what. So, what breath and non-movement practices are associated with Kundalini?
Yeah. So Kundalini and a lot of yogas have multiple breath practice with
Mm-hmm.
non-movement, right? So long, deep breath, slow, full nasal breath that's regulated. It regulates the nervous system. So inhaling and exhaling through the nose,
Mm-hmm.
nice full breath. Uh, breath of fire, the rhythmic breath, nostril breath, with gentle belly engagement, activated when used briefly and appropriately. Like don't
Okay.
like you when you start to feel something when you're doing any kind of breath practices, and I have people tell me they deal with it in the 4-7-8 breath, they deal with it in the box breath, they deal it within it ujjayi breathing. So everybody's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our breath is very unique to us. And so you have to kind of start slow and then work your way into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alternate nostril breathing, balance and integrates left and right, right? And it balances the nervous system. Soft ujjayi breath, quiet, steady breath. It helps you focus, and it helps with containment. That is kind of like this oceany breath that comes
Mm-hmm.
down the back of the throat. Short breath retention, use sparingly and only with preparation, and timed and rhythmic breath, building for meditation and focus, right? So you're kind of building that rhythm so you can kind of sit in a more meditative state, right?
Okay.
Kundalini also includes meditation, mantras, mudras, and visualization. Movement is not required to do
Okay.
Kundalini breath. So, and that's all yoga. Like all yoga, I know people that practice a yogic lifestyle that
Mm-hmm.
do only, only restorative movement, which is I call it almost like sleepy time yoga. So they practice very
Yeah, I feel
slow.
like if I was going to get into a yoga practice, that would be my
Yeah,
that would be my thing.
but I think that people, because we call it a yoga class, people automatically think yoga is movement, and that's not the
Well,
case.
yeah, no, absolutely no. I mean, I am aware, like, I am not someone who practices asanas regularly. I have studied some like yoga information and different types of yoga through my fitness
Hmm.
training. So I do, I have a pretty good background and understanding of like yoga and the eight limbs and what it came from and what it was meant to do, like really
Hmm.
to unite like body, mind, and breath. And
Hmm.
again, like knowing that the movement was a part of that and then is what like kind of we took over as our, yoga practice here.
Right.
So, that much I am familiar with. And I have a rough time with some of the movements. I'm a little overly bendy. So I tend to like get stuck in some
Mhm.
poses. So I feel like if I was going to do anything restorative would be definitely the way to go for me.
I have a private client that used to be a contortionist,
Wow.
and she is she deals with a lot of pain now. She's
Yeah.
my age. She deals with a lot of pain. And the realization is we do more movements to build muscle around the joints that she hasn't been protecting
Right.
her whole entire life with what she has done for a living. And so I think that I think that's a thing that people don't think of. Like people think yoga, flexible,
Right.
you have to be like
But
this.
there's a thing of being, yeah, overly flexible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it can hurt your body.
Well,
So,
yes. Well, anything like even, too much of a good thing, even, you want to be flexible, but within
yeah.
not, but
You want
not
the
overly.
mobility more than the flexibility for sure.
Exactly. Yes. You want to be fully mobile.
Yes.
Really important here. And I just want to bring up like the breath practices. And again, I was listening to a book. They didn't even call it Kundalini breathing
Hmm.
because again, like can be controversial and it does kind of, bring up certain things. So the breath that was basically described was kind of starting at the base of the spine root chakra at the like perineum is to breathe in, contract the muscle
Hmm.
to kind of like almost like a visualization of like seeing the breath come up and you tighten the muscle as you kind of hit the I guess the chakra, right? Like that
Hmm.
area until you get to the top of that
Hmm.
until you get to the top of the head. And that can be um like I feel like that can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing
Hmm.
because I mean there's a thing too. I don't know if you discuss it much in yoga. I know you do all kinds of other movement classes, but when you go for like your personal training and like PT and all there's you if you hold your breath like while exerting
Yeah.
so like with movement you can raise your stroke volume
Hmm.
basically it's like the Valsalva maneuver you kind of like stop breathing like things push down
Hmm.
and you can raise your stroke volume which is like kind of scary.
Yeah.
So, like, that's something you don't want to have happen.
Hmm.
And as you're practicing something like that, if you overdo it, it can be, it can get a little scary. And even though I know, I've practiced, breathing techniques and I know like how to breathe like through movement and all of
Hmm.
that kind of thing. And I was like, I was struggling just like sitting down in a seat, like
Hmm.
moving that breath up that way. So that kind of brought me to I was like, am I doing this right? This what posed these questions for me. Like,
Hmm.
and so then I was like, well, do I need a class or a teacher to do this
Yeah.
to make sure like I'm not gonna like pass out?
Yeah. And I think, my, and this is just my opinion,
Right.
which, whatever. But my opinion, always for people is if you're looking for something of this nature, to go to a breath work workshop
Okay.
is always beneficial because in breath work workshops, they do cover like fire breath
Mm-hmm.
and alternative nostril breathing and things like that. And you are just working on breath. Believe it or not, I can tell you from experience. I've gone to breath work workshops
Mm-hmm.
and I can tell you by the time I'm done, I'm exhausted.
Absolutely. It does. It is a work
I
like you
am
think it is an
sweating.
they are exercises. Yes.
Yes.
I
I
agree. I have
yes.
same
I am
same experience.
I am I sit in the car on the drive home. I'm on fire. I'm
Yeah.
like
It can
holy like
yeah, it can be very, very intense. I
yes.
agree. I
Yes.
agree.
And usually in those workshops, they give you many different alternatives on how to make the breath um, more compatible to you and
Mm-hmm.
integrate breath with who you are and how you're breathing, right? We don't all have the same lung capacity,
Mm-hmm.
and so I always suggest that people do like a breath work workshop
Yeah.
before they jump into any kind of class that has any kind of fire breath or any
Yeah.
kind of. I suggest it for my people that are interested in hot yoga in the hot 26, um, which, or the Bikram, whatever you want to call
Right.
it. But I always suggest that to people that they should do some breath work in a more maybe like a warmer environment
Right.
before they go and do a 90-minute class because it really does take a lot out of you and it helps you understand what your body is going to be going through without the movement.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, and I mean, I have done some breathwork classes um for different reasons. Like I've done it through very pranayama breathing. When I was singing a lot, I was taking voice lessons and I did a lot of breath work to
Mm-hmm.
just, kind of increase like my capacity to just like not because you're not supposed to like as you're singing certain phrases, right? You need to learn when to breathe in that. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to like basically
Yeah.
learn, how to control your breath. So there was a lot of breath practice with that. And yeah, like you're not even doing anything. You're practicing breathing. And again, like yeah, you can become like it's a workout.
Yeah.
It can really be a workout. It's
And I work with a client right now. She's teaching me a whole bunch of stuff because she has COPD
ah
and she has these little exercise things to strengthen her diaphragm.
okay.
And so she has introduced me to a whole nother realm of breath and diaphragm work and things like that I'm like, wow, like I had no, like, yes, I've taken breath work and yes, I've
Hmm.
done the classes and stuff, but this was like on a different level. This was like on a um more clinical,
Right, of course.
right? Which yeah, I just learning something new every day.
But still, that's a great practice, like to be
I
able to
know.
do that. So.
It was pretty awesome.
All right.
Um,
All right. So what are the benefits that, are incorporated in this?
so
So
let's
like,
first go over what the people that need to be very careful doing this kind of breath work. And
yes.
so people with anxiety, panic disorders, unresolved trauma, PTSD, pregnancy, always check with your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Cardiovascular conditions,
Yep.
you always want to make sure you're talking to your medical team. And then people that faint
Right.
or have any kind of like an epilepsy or something of
Like
that.
seizure disorder.
Yes. And so, just be super mindful because these can take a lot out of you. And
Mm-hmm.
so as we go from, who needs to be super careful with this kind of stuff, the benefits are when the practice is appropriate, the benefits can include improving the nervous system, making the
Mm-hmm.
nervous system regulated, increase breath awareness.
Okay.
It can improve focus and clarity. Um, it can make senses stronger of like an embodiment,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then vitality, right?
Okay.
Without depletion. So you can, sometimes we do things that exert ourselves and deplete ourselves to create vitality, but then we're
Mm-hmm.
depleting exactly what we're, trying to do. And so, yeah, so those are the benefits of
Okay.
practice of this nature.
So then I know we did talk about like who should be cautious, but like what are some of the dangers? Like even if you're not like within that
Yeah,
population that needs to be careful.
yeah. So the risk isn't necessarily Kundalini. I want
Right.
to,
But for breath practices in
right.
general, I know that
That's what
there
I was
are
going to say. This is for all breath work practices and even yoga practices,
Yes.
Misapplication is always, always the worry that
Mm-hmm.
I feel that people, if you don't, if you misapply things, that's where it can be dangerous. So risk arise when breath is focused and prolonged,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you're feeling that feeling, but you just keep going.
Right.
And then activation is prioritized over grounding. I talked about
Right.
that in the beginning. People are encouraged to do an override of the body signals. Your body's telling you this isn't working, or I don't feel good, or something
Right.
like that, and you just keep going. Signals to slow down will include exhaustion, anxiety, dizziness, um, disassociation,
Right. Okay.
right? These are cues for you to take care of, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's not a cue that, oh my God, I'm so dizzy. This is working for me,
Right. Yeah, no, that's
right? Um, and and I think that's sometimes the delusion
right.
of where people are trying to get this higher consciousness.
Right. And I think the dizziness is
Right. They
associated with
think,
that.
right. And that's your body telling you, hey, we're not
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I think too, just because you did mention the breathwork classes, I think a really good thing to bring up too is if someone does go into doing that, each breath has certain benefits
Hmm.
and, certain things that you do want to watch out for.
Yes.
And I think in any good breath work class and any good breath work practice, if you're going to look into these, and there's so many different ways, what you want to make sure of is if you're going to do any kind of breath work that is clear. Like this is who this breath is for, and this is who may want to be a little bit certain breaths. If you're an anxious person and a certain breath is going to kind of get your heart rate up and like sort of like energize you and you're
Hmm.
already like kind of anxious
Yeah.
and very, hyper aware,
Yep.
certain breaths are not always the best for certain people, and you want to make sure if you are looking into a practice or a course or something like that that is highlighted.
Yeah.
And you want to be working on the breaths that you need. Like, I need more prolonged, calming breaths.
Yes.
Most of the time, I don't need a breath that's going to kind of wake me up and invigorate me.
Right.
But some people do.
Yeah.
And
The
you
other
want to
thing is
know like
too,
that they're telling you like what the effect is going to be.
the other thing too is like there are breath practices where you're holding your breath. If
Yes.
4-7-8 is one that, people do, but the hold of the breath sometimes is a lot for people that feel
Yes.
like anxiety or whatever. The other thing is some people can hold with holding the breath in,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't hold on the push out of the breath. So
Right.
some people don't even know that until they start doing breath work.
Yeah.
And so it really is an opportunity when you do something like this, when you find somebody that you trust, or find a class that,
Mm-hmm.
you're interested in or whatever. It's really good for you to really acknowledge what your body is telling you in these moments.
Yeah.
Because I have clients that didn't know that they can hold breath, like they can't hold at the top of the breath, but they can
Mm-hmm.
hold with empty lungs. They can't hold with empty lungs, but they can hold at the top of a breath.
Yeah. So I have this like, so I notice when I start to practice, like I'll get out of the practice if I'll do like 4-7-8 breathing. From after the hold, I then have difficulty. Like if I breathe in and then exhale, I can do a very slow release, long exhale. But after I do an inhale, I hold and then I try to release. I get to a certain point where I can't like slowly release anymore. And I almost have to do a big like, so I'll start and then I just kind of stop. And then I almost have to do a like,
Like a big push.
to get the rest of the air out. Now, after I do like a few cycles or I've been practicing for
Hmm.
a while, I can prolong that, but I always like I tend to get stuck there. And that's
Yeah.
just, you know, And I have to remember that, and I take my time, and as I go, it gets longer, but that's just,
Yeah.
and honestly, the more stressed or anxious I am, the harder it is for me to slowly like push that breath out, especially after a hold. And
Yeah.
it's just, it's just like that's a normal, that's just
Yeah. And
normal
that's
for me.
like, that's awesome that you can recognize that. Not like a lot of people wouldn't recognize that.
Well,
You know what I
exactly. And
mean?
I'm like, but again, it's part of the process. Like, so
Hmm.
in that breathe, did I get the breathing perfect? No, I'm practicing the breathing, but what
Right.
did I get from that? I was able to notice what's happening inside my body
Right.
when I feel certain ways and what happens when I practice and what happens when I'm a bit more anxious. And for me, again, like that's the point of the whole thing. It's not to be perfect at doing the breathing.
Right.
It's to stop and to notice where I am while I'm breathing.
Right. Absolutely.
So, which is why like I found this very intriguing because I was like, and I have to tell you too, before you kind of do the little closing thing, for me, like I liked looking into this because I was like, all right, here's a practice, here's something described. I know damn well, like they give you the book, but they want you to go to like their retreats and their classes to sit with
Hmm.
them to learn how to do this. But I'm like, so what I got out of this is like, I definitely enjoy this. If I'm going to do something like this, I want a class.
Hmm.
I want a teacher. I want another human. Like, I don't even just want a video. I want like another human with me
Hmm.
who is not going to like want me to do it right. They're going to want me to do it safely
Right.
and to like, my capacity
Right.
and, to be comfortable. So, I mean, that's kind of what I got out of that. Like, I definitely learned a little bit about the background of this. And I'm like, if I'm going to do anything in this capacity, it would be definitely like breath work and
Right.
meditation with someone who was going to like take me through it slowly, at least the beginning practices of it to get myself started in a very prolonged practice.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I agree. I
So,
think I think if you can find a really good teacher, and I've taken so many breathwork classes, if you can find a really good teacher, it unlocks something, and
hmm
it really just takes you to the next level of your journey, which is beautiful. Um, so for me, this conversation isn't about the practice of Kundalini. It
hmm
is about all yoga practices. It is about understanding what it was meant to be and
hmm
why it's often misunderstood,
Okay.
and how breath across many traditions can be used wisely to support awareness and regulation. Kundalini isn't about doing more, it is about listening better.
Okay. I like that. I like that. And I feel like like all my questions were answered, like the points were hit. I kind of got what I, wanted out of that. And I definitely, you know, not probably going to use the method like that was just sort of written out
Hmm.
to practice on my own
Yeah.
before a meditation because I just don't think that that's someplace, I don't think that's somewhere I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
So,
That's fair. That's fair. All
anyone
right.
else wants to do it, you make your own decision, but that's where I'm at with that. I hope you found it as interesting as I did and you got some information to move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any questions, any comments, anything you want to hear, like, please comment and let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
All right. I
Thanks for
think
being
that's it.
here. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom. Don't forget to subscribe or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on social media for more updates. See you next time.